Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're strapping in for a really fascinating look at a world defined less by, the usual 9 to 5, and more by time zone overlaps. We're talking about the world of global financial market trading. Yeah, we've been digging into quite a few sources detailing the intense physical and mental demands, really, the choreography needed to succeed when money quite literally never sleeps. So, our mission today to dive deep into the unique routines, the relentless rhythms, and frankly, the big personal sacrifices involved, especially for those trading across major hubs like London, New York, Tokyo. We're really focusing on how they manage to stay sharp, like razor sharp, when their whole professional life might be dictated by what's happening on the other side of the planet.
And what jumps out right away, I think, is that this job just completely ignores local geography. The market is global, period. So your schedule is never really fixed in one place. You've got this constant interplay, right? Tokyo kicks things off, London comes in with huge liquidity, especially during that overlap, and then New York wraps up the main cycle. It demands intense personal adjustment. So anyone serious about this have to make a pretty fundamental choice. They've got to sync their whole body clock, essentially, to become either a dedicated night owl or a really disciplined early bird.
Okay, let's unpack that because, wow. That framing suggests the job is almost less about the algorithms and charts and maybe more about mastering your own biology under, well, pretty extreme pressure.
Oh, absolutely. The basic truth is someone's always trading. Always. And for the pro, that means opportunities are always popping up somewhere. Think about the scale. For a few hours every day, you get London and New York overlapping. That's two massive pools of money sloshing around together.
Yeah.
Huge liquidity. Then, maybe 12 hours later, you've got the tail end of New York meeting the start of the Asian markets. These peak moments, high volatility, high liquidity. Certain strategies just thrive there. And if your specific edge relies on being present during, say, the Tokyo Open, well, you just have to be there. Doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. where you live.
And yeah, our sources really highlight that geographical challenge, talking about needing to trade the Asia, London, or NY session from different parts of the world.
Mm.
So, like you said, if I'm sitting in Sydney, but my edge is during the London Open,
Mm-hmm.
my whole day, my sleep, everything's flipped upside down. How do traders actually decide which session to focus on? Is it just about the strategy or?
It's almost always strategic. It has to be. It's dictated by the market mechanics they specialize in. It's definitely not about convenience. It's all about finding and keeping that edge. So maybe a trader looks for really low liquidity situations, those quiet periods in the Asian session when Europe and the US are asleep. They might focus there. But someone else, maybe a volatility trader dealing in major currencies or indices, they're going to zero in on that London-New York overlap. And they just accept that their evenings are basically gone, sacrificed to be there for that high energy window. So the practical result, you just can't stick to a normal 9 to 5. It's impossible. Your life is dictated by when the major exchanges are open. If you're based in Berlin but you need to be active for the New York close, well, your workday is kicking off when everyone else is thinking about dinner. It's this relentless scheduling that means the market dictates your routine, not the other way around.
Right. Which brings us back squarely to that core idea. The night owls versus the early birds. And in this context, it's not just a preference like, oh, I like staying up late. It's an operational necessity, isn't it? Rooted in what they specialize in. But hang on, why is it framed as such a fixed identity? Wouldn't bigger firms just, rotate shifts, share the pain a bit?
That's a good point. And institutional floors, the big banks and funds, they often do have rotations, absolutely. But a lot of the sources seem to focus on the highly specialized individual trader, maybe someone running their own book or a small proprietary desk. For them, consistency is key. You build up this deep, almost intuitive feel for a specific market window, a specific time of day. You can't easily swap someone else in to run a really complex, nuanced strategy perfectly during the Tokyo Open if they haven't lived and breathed it day after day. That repetition is part of the skill.
Ah, I see. The expertise is time slot specific.
Exactly. So that label night owl or early bird, it's purely defined by the session they target and how that clashes or aligns with their local time zone. A trader in Europe focused on Asia, that's your classic night owl. They might be working, say, midnight to 8 a.m. local time.
Wow.
Whereas someone on the U.S. West Coast targeting the London Open, which kicks off around, 1 or 2 a.m. Pacific time, they are the ultimate early bird. Seriously, they're waking up when most folks are in their deepest sleep.
And both paths, the night owl and the early bird, they lead to this one fundamental non-negotiable thing you mentioned, adjusting sleep cycles. I'm guessing this goes way beyond just setting a different alarm. This sounds like a constant biological battle, right? Fighting your own body clock.
It is. It's a constant negotiation with your physiology.
Hmm.
Our bodies are wired for the sun, for the solar cycle. When you force yourself to be hyper alert, making critical decisions when your body thinks it should be deeply asleep, yeah, performance naturally drops. The sources talk about this misalignment, sometimes called social jet lag, as a major cost of doing this job.
Social jet lag, interesting
It
term.
is. You have to fundamentally shift your entire circadian rhythm, often by 6, 8, even 10 hours.
Mm,
And that takes radical discipline, like really strict rules about light exposure, when to seek it, when to block it out completely. Meal timing becomes critical. And
yeah.
protecting sleep, that's paramount. You need structured, undisturbed sleep blocks. You simply cannot afford to be chronically tired. In this game, fatigue leads to very expensive mistakes, irreversible ones sometimes.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical and kind of fascinating. The sources give us some tactical clues, right? How do these incredibly disciplined people actually cope? What are the specific strategies they use to stay at peak performance when every cell in their body might be screaming for sleep?
Yeah, the sources detail this really interesting mix. It's like part chemical precision, part hardcore healthy habits. They kind of summarize it as caffeine hacks and healthy
Yeah.
habits. And we're not talking about just grabbing an extra espresso. This is strategic, almost clinical, the way they deploy stimulants. The really effective traders seem to practice what you could call strategic chemical timing.
Strategic chemical timing. Okay. Can you break that down? What does that actually look like day to day?
Well, it means avoiding that common mistake of just slamming a huge dose of caffeine right when you wake up, whenever waking up is for you.
Right, the big jolt.
Yeah, instead they might use smaller timed doses, maybe say 100 milligrams every couple of hours. The goal is to maintain a sort of flat, consistent level of alertness throughout their critical trading window, rather than riding these sharp energy peaks and then crashing hard.
Smoothing out the curve.
Exactly. And they're also incredibly careful about when they stop, making sure that last dose is maybe 6, even 8 hours before their scheduled sleep time. That's crucial to protect the quality of that sleep block, no matter what the actual clock on the wall says. And then there are the healthy habits, which are just as rigid, really. Things like non-negotiable exercise. Sometimes it's like 20 minutes of high-intensity stuff immediately after waking up at 2 a.m., just to shock the system awake.
Wow, at 2 a.m.
Yeah. And many use those special light therapy lamps, the ones designed to mimic sunlight, to help suppress melatonin production during their work night. Plus, really strict dietary controls. Some use intermittent fasting, which some studies suggest might help in resetting that internal clock. These aren't just, wellness trends for them. They're essential survival tools.
That level of micromanaging your own body chemistry and physiology, I mean, that sounds exhausting in itself. And if managing the physical side is that demanding, there must be incredible discipline needed, not just for logging on, but also for knowing when to log off. We saw the sources really emphasizing this point about identifying when to be alert and when to log off. Why is logging off treated as such a critical strategic move?
It's absolutely critical because, simply put, fatigue is a market risk, a quantifiable one. Sure, the markets might be open somewhere 204/7, but our ability to make good decisions, that's definitely finite. So choosing to step away to actively log off,
Yeah.
it's a defensive play. It should probably be treated with the same seriousness as setting a stop-loss order on a trade.
Huh, never thought of it like that.
Yeah, and you see stories, anecdotes in the materials we looked at that really drive this home. The worst trades, the biggest blow-ups, they often happen when a trader's exhausted, maybe chasing losses or just pushing themselves outside their optimal performance window. So the discipline to just stop, to log off, it's about protecting your capital, yes, but also protecting your cognitive resources for the next session. The best traders seem to recognize that the risk of making a bad call because you're tired or emotional from lack of sleep, that risk far outweighs any potential reward from staying logged in for just one more trade. It's about accepting that your own biology, your body clock, has its own built-in, non-negotiable risk limit.
That really elevates just turning off your computer, doesn't it? It's not just rest. It's, like you said, a core part of risk management, protecting your capital.
Precisely. And if you connect that back to the bigger picture, the sources kind of suggest that mastering this constant sync-up challenge, this biological battle, that's what really separates the top performers. It kind of shifts the focus, doesn't it? From just the mechanics of placing trades to the mechanics of self-mastery.
Okay, so let's pivot slightly then. We've talked about the mechanics sleep, caffeine, risk control. But what about identity? The sources wrap up by exploring how traders identify themselves beyond the job title, which suggests this rhythm they adopt, night owl or early bird, it becomes more than just a schedule. It's part of their professional persona.
Oh, it absolutely does. That rhythm night owl, early bird, and the specific market session they dominate, it becomes like a badge of honor, a tribal mark almost. They aren't just traders, they're, NY session guys or those night owl Asia specialists.
Hmm.
And this self-identification, which is born out of this really grueling routine, it's probably necessary for just coping psychologically.
Interesting. But does that kind of self-labeling help them, or does it potentially box them in? Does it create unnecessary divisions, or is it more about fostering that sense of dedication you need?
Probably a bit of both, I'd guess. On the plus side, it definitely reinforces the commitment and the structure you need to maintain such an unnatural lifestyle.
Yeah.
Being a night owl often means accepting more social isolation, maybe, but perhaps it also encourages a certain kind of detached, analytical approach during those quiet, low liquidity hours. They're often working in solitude, making very calculated moves away from the noise and frenzy of the main trading day.
Right, a different mindset.
Yeah, and conversely, the early bird, the one who's constantly fighting the pre-dawn hours to catch London, maybe they embrace a mindset of high urgency, immediate action, fast-paced execution. Their personality might lean more towards that aggressive style because the window demands it. So the lifestyle they have to adopt becomes intrinsically linked to their trading style, their risk tolerance, their whole approach.
So boiling it all down, for someone trying to get a handle on how global finance really works day to day, it sounds like success isn't just about smarts or strategy. It's also about fundamentally conquering time, choosing your identity based on the strategic need to sync up with London or New York or Tokyo, even if they're thousands of miles and many time zones away.
Exactly. Surviving and actually thriving in these global markets is this constant, relentless act of personal adjustment. It's profound self-mastery, the ability to manage these intense rhythms, to successfully force your own biology to align with the London Open or that spike in liquidity in Tokyo. That's what elevates a market participant. They're not just clicking buttons. They are mastering a really challenging global lifestyle defined by the hours they choose to conquer.
That is a powerful way to think about this profession. Okay, so let's recap quickly. We've touched on the relentless 2047 nature of global markets that London, NY, Tokyo relay. We've seen the strategic necessity of aligning with specific sessions, forcing that night owl or early bird choice. We definitely explored the need to radically adjust sleep cycles and the reliance on some pretty advanced physiological management. Those timed caffeine doses, strict health routines, all just to maintain alertness and avoid costly mistakes.
Yeah, maybe a final thought to leave you with, kind of rooted in what all this implies.
Yeah.
Just consider that deep connection between global finance and personal biology. If your entire daily routine, maybe even your professional identity, is shaped by when a market opens on the far side of the planet, dictated by a time zone you don't even live in,
Mm.
what does that really tell us about the true cost, the personal biological price tag of being constantly plugged in, globally engaged, and trying to be profitable? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How long can human beings truly sustain being synchronized with a machine that never stops?
So, really profound question to chew on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the intense synchronization required in the world of financial market routines. Until next time, keep digging into the sources.